Welcome to Schemio introductory video. Schemio is an in-browser diagramming and prototyping editor that allows you to design complex interactive diagrams and demonstrations. Let's start by inspecting some of the very basic features of Schemio and try to build a simple interactive diagram from scratch. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a diagram, choose either a public, private, or unlisted diagram. The unlisted diagram is available to anyone, but it's not available in the search results. So let's create a public diagram. We will start with an empty canvas. On the left side, we have an item menu. On the right side, we have some diagram basic properties. Let's create a very simple shape. We can just draw it like this, or we can drag shape onto the canvas. If we double click it, we can type text, and so that not every shape supports text, but the majority of them do. We will call this one Nginx and then this one front end. And the first thing you can do with any diagramming editor is you can connect items with a connector. So this is just the very basic stuff. Like, this is nothing special, but what makes Schemio special is the interactiveness in the diagrams. And the first thing that we're going to uncover is the documentation. So we can actually document every single element on the diagram, and this can be done like this. We select the element, we can give it a proper name, Nginx, and then if we click this icon, you will get into the description pop-up. And in this pop-up, we can type some description. Nginx is a load balancer. Obviously, a real diagram, you would probably provide a lot more description to this block, but I will just go with a simple text, just for the demonstration purposes. So we documented this item. So far, nothing happens. But the thing is, since Schemio is designed for building interactive diagrams, there are two modes with which you can open your diagram. Currently, we are in the edit mode, but there's also a view mode. And if we go to the view mode, and then we click Nginx, this tooltip appears because Nginx element is documented. And frontend doesn't do anything because it's not documented. And if you have a big diagram with many items and you don't know which one you can click, which one is clickable, which one has documents, this icon can help you with that. It highlights the items that support documentation. So let's go back to the edit mode. And another thing that we can look into are the links. So this can also be done in this pop-up. Like, we can add a link. So let's imagine that we have a big diagram and there are various items, and for some of the items we want to provide some links. For instance, like if you want to go to the logs of your front end, or you want to have graphs, etc. Let's, for instance, put like performance metrics, for example. I don't have a right URL, so I'll just type localhost for now. And we can also choose an icon for it, graphs. As you can see, the link appears here. We can also remove it, change it, add a new link. Another way to add a link is through the context menu. If you click the right button, you get a context menu, and then you can click add link. It opens the same pop-up, and we can add another link. Say, let's call it logs, or let's call it access logs, and just give it the same URL for the demonstration and give it a different icon. What will happen now is you will see that both of the items are clickable, and if we click front end, it shows the link. If we click outside, the links just disappear. So that's quite useful because you can not only you can provide description to your item, you can also add links to it. You don't necessarily have to go to the view mode, by the way. You can also discover documentation and links. If you click this icon, it will show items that have something. So for instance, if I add another item, it doesn't have this icon, but this one, Nginx, has it. And you see that it has its description. If I have the icon on the front end, it shows us the links that we have created earlier. And this could be also useful just in the edit mode. So again, there is a way to document your diagrams, and you can document every single item individually. Now let's look into the connectors and how they work. The connector can be created either by clicking an item and then touching this arrow icons, and we can click and then create multiple points. We can also change the style, like a smooth connector or like these corners. And well, I don't like this one, so I can drag it a little bit. And then what we can also do is we can add points by double clicking. Let's also change it to this one. And if we double click a point, it will remove it. We can also do a multi-select. That's pretty much it. Well, there's actually a lot more to that, because you can change the styling of the connector. You can choose the caps for the connector, like different types of errors, etc. Now let's see what else we can do with the diagram. Let's remove this one. What we can also do is we can change the fill, for instance, like this, right? We can change the stroke, etc. But what we can also do is we can add effects. So for instance, like this effect. Let's imagine that we have an Nginx and we have multiple front-end instances. You can click on add effect, and then we can select repeat. We can even make it more interesting if we add fading, like this, and we can select the number of repeating layers, and that's it. So as you can see, it just adds an effect to the front-end item. Let's look into another special item that is called component. Imagine that we want to have more documentation to the front-end element or Nginx, for instance, right? And we want to be able to see a more complex diagram for a particular item. How can we achieve that? Well, one way to do that, let's delete the front end and replace it with a component. So this is a component item, and so far it doesn't do a lot right now, but here's the trick. If we select it, we can go on the bottom and then we can choose external diagram. And then I already have prepared my diagram, front-end diagram. We click use it. What will happen now is if we go to view mode and click load more, it will load another diagram, which I have already prepared, and it will be displayed inside of our diagram, and it can also be interactive. And now we can go back and we'll zoom out and bring us to the previous position. And what is even more funny is that you can do some interesting tricks with the dynamic components. Let's just add a bunch of other stuff, and let's create the diagram. I need to save it because currently it's not saved. So sample diagram. I have to choose a category. And what if, instead of the front-end diagram that I have prepared earlier, what if we switch and use the diagram itself? Let's also save it, because otherwise it will not work correctly. Now if we load, it will be recursively loading indefinitely, which is actually quite fun, although also quite useless. But I just wanted to demonstrate it that it was possible. And we can change the text, we can change the appearance of the component button, etc. We can change the styling. So we can again call it the front end. We can change the button. We can change the color. For instance, we can even create a gradient color if we want. But we can also do more than that. We can actually create more complex interactions in a diagram. And for that, there are already some templates prepared. For instance, this one, which is called dynamic component. What we can do with this one is we can just create it like this. And what happens, this item, if we look at the item selector, it becomes attached to the Nginx component. So if I drag it, this little dynamic component item also moves together with the Nginx block. What it allows us to do is that if we go into the template properties and choose the external document, and let's just choose the same front-end diagram. And what's going to happen, I click the button and then the dynamic diagram loads on top of it. But we can make it even more interesting if we tick this checkbox, use parent size. In this case, instead of appearing on the button, it will appear on the parent of that button. And you can use this technique if you want to be a bit more creative in your diagrams. Now, what I want to show you next is I want to show you exactly how the item hierarchy works in the Schemio editor. Let's go on the bottom and then pick this swim lane shape. And the other thing that we can do, we can also choose the stickies. Let's imagine that we just want to put like a stickies on the planning board, right? We can type something, doesn't matter. So the thing is, these stickies, they actually are automatically attached on this board because we draw these stickies on top of them. Even if we drag them, they will still be attached. Now if I move the board, the stickies also move. And if you go to the item selector, you will see that it appears like this. So we can also move them outside. Yep, and now they detach. We can also drag them like this. And we can even drag sticky into another one. So now if I rotate this one, the yellow sticky also rotates. And this becomes actually quite useful because the other thing we can do, we can also attach icons to the stickies. We can load additional shapes, and then we can draw icons like this. Now let's look into the interactiveness aspect of the Schemio a little bit closer. How does it actually work? Imagine that you have a particular item like this one, right? For instance, we can change the color, and on the right panel there are different tabs. Like for instance, this one is for the description, this one is for just the properties of the shape of this item. We can change the stroke size, we can change the corner radius. If we go here, in this one we can change the behavior of the item. So all the interactivity of the item is actually configured in this panel. We can add event. It creates a event for a click, but we can also change it, for instance, for the init, which is triggered when you first open the diagram. Mouse in, mouse out, etc. But let's imagine that we want to do something when we click the item. And then all we need to do is add action. So for instance, we can make the item disappear, and we can do it like this: hide, animated. And now if you go to view mode and you click the item, it disappears. Another thing we can do is, for instance, imagine that we want to create a small tooltip, and then we can have like a large text. We can also add a close button. Let's make it red and remove the stroke. And what we can do here is we can add an event. When we click this button, it will close the panel, and in here you see the item reference, and it is self. This means that the action is applied to itself. But we can also change it like this. We can click it and select from the drop down, or just click like this. And let's make it to hide function. Now it disappears. But let's imagine that this becomes like an interactive tooltip for something. So we can provide some text like this one, and we want to hide it on the init event. We can do it like this: self and then hide, but I don't want to hide it with animation. Instead, I want to do it instantly. We can also click it here and configure it ourselves, but we will disable the animation. In the view mode, it will disappear. Let's go back to edit mode. What I want to do now is whenever I hover my mouse over this item, it will make the tooltip appear, and if I move the mouse out, it will disappear. So let's do it like that. We will remove the click. We will add mouse in, action, change self to the panel, show. Then we can duplicate the event, change the mouse in to mouse out, and change show to hide. Let's see how it works. Like this, as you can see. Although now I cannot select the text, which is not really that useful. But you don't have to do all of this by yourself. There's already a template prepared for this, which is called tooltip, and it works like this. You create some icon, and it already has a pop-up. But you can also hide it. You can show the pop-up, and you can change your text to something else. You can move it, you can resize it, etc. And now if you go to view mode, it gives you this fancy pulsating animation. But now if you click it, it shows the pop-up, and you can also close it. You can also click it, and then again, if you click it, it disappears. So this tooltip is a little bit more advanced. So I think that should be enough for the introductory video. I hope you liked it, and if you want to see more videos, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I plan on creating a lot more educational videos on how to build complex and interactive diagrams and interactive learning demonstrations. Thanks for watching.